I'm Maya and I'm the CEO of Reprieve. Reprieve and the European Saudi Organisation for Human Rights, ESOHR, have been monitoring Saudi Arabia's use of the death penalty for over a decade. What we've witnessed in this time is a sharp and deeply troubling escalation since Mohammed bin Salman rose to power in 2015. Over this time, we've seen the Crown Prince make and break promise after promise on the use of the death penalty, all the while toying with the rhetoric of reform in an effort to distract us from the violence he was overseeing. But we have not and will not be distracted. Since we began recording executions, they've surged dramatically. The annual number has more than doubled. Between 2010 and 2014, Saudi Arabia carried out an average of 71 executions each year. From 2015 to 2025, that average jumped to 175. Last year alone saw the highest number ever recorded, with 345 people executed, and this year is already on track to meet or even break that record, with at least 325 executions so far. This increase in executions includes the continued imposition of the death penalty on individuals convicted of crimes committed as children. Our monitoring shows that at least 15 defendants, child defendants, were executed between 2015 and 2021. Two more, Jalal al-Abad and Abdullah al-Darazi, were executed this year, and 7 others remain on death row, despite a royal decree in 2020 that purported to end the use of the death penalty for minors. These children have been sentenced to death for crimes that shouldn't even be considered crimes, for attending funerals or pro-democracy protests. There has also been a significant rise in death sentences for non-lethal offences, particularly of drug-related crimes. Executions for these crimes have multiplied over the last 2 years in direct violation of international human rights standards, which limit the death penalty to the most serious offences, meaning intentional murder only. Foreign nationals have also been disproportionately targeted over these cases. In almost 80%, those convicted of drug offences are foreign nationals, many of whom are migrant workers who face significant barriers in accessing legal assistance, interpretation and consular support. In other words, these are deeply unfair and unjust death sentences. Executions in Saudi Arabia take place in almost complete secrecy. The regime does not publish death penalty data despite repeated calls from the United Nations for it to do so. And families are often not informed of the executions, leaving some of them to find out that their brother, son, cousin have been executed via social media. The regime also refuses to return the bodies of those who've been executed to their loved ones. These features combine to make Saudi Arabia's capital punishment system one of the cruelest in the world. What makes this escalation in the use of the death penalty even more concerning is that it directly contradicts the Crown Prince's own public statements. He has repeatedly told international media that the death penalty is reserved only for murder and that it no longer applies to child defendants. The reality I've just described belies both those points. He's also announced plans to codify a penal code in 2021, but that was never implemented. What does this mean? The absence of a clearly defined criminal code means that it is impossible to know what acts might be deemed to be crimes and what crimes might be punishable by death. It's a system which is inherently and arguably deliberately arbitrary and open to wild abuse. But despite these broken promises and despite the violence inflicted on the people on death row, the Crown Prince continues to be feted by international allies, now more than ever. The consequences of this impunity are wide-reaching. When public promises are broken without accountability, it signals to the Saudi Arabian regime that violations will be tolerated and the result, as we've seen, is a dramatic rise in indiscriminate executions. But despite this deeply troubling picture, as I look back over the last decade of doing this work, I can see signs that the pressure does work and that change is possible. The 2018 juvenile law and the 2020 royal decree, whilst not applied consistently, do acknowledge that children should not face the death penalty. And the releases of Ali al-Nimr, Abdullah al-Zahir and Dawood al-Mahoun in 2021, all of whom were removed from death row following sustained advocacy, show that international pressure can have a direct impact. These cases demonstrate that persistent private and public scrutiny is essential. It is for people like Ali, Abdullah and Dawood, and for the countless others who've been victimised by the violence of this regime, that we do our work together. We've shown that it's possible to have an impact. And as we come to the close of a challenging year, we look forward with resolve, with focus, and with determination to continue the fight for justice. Thank you all for being here.